There are some stories that should never be told, but those stories should be embraced. There is something dark and scary about these dark tales. Sometimes dreams and nightmares come true.
I see you.
There's nowhere to hide. Silver Swan Audio Oddities.
Captain David Starr is amazed by the view before him and his fellow crew members. They all watch as they approach a mysterious pink and orange-colored planet. From the sight, it looks magnificent. It even has a glow. Pedro the journalist slaps both hands together in celebration. He laughs. The captain sits in the command chair grinning, looking around at his crewmates. He licks his lips slightly, undrying them, and stands to give a speech. The captain speaks. "We came a long way. We've been through so much. We are like family now. Today marks a great day of discovery. The people back home will be uplifted with what we discover on this beautiful planet. Great job, everyone. Now let's give a round of applause and get our butts out there and make some memories." Wendy sits looking at her monitor. She plays with her blonde hair. She slightly smiles. She misses home, and being away for so long has saddened her. She's been on mission in space for nearly half a year. She is homesick, but she is happy that they found this planet. She taps a few buttons telling the ship's computer to scan for a good landing site. Wendy looks at another monitor with the screensaver image of her daughter and husband. She smiles at the image. A few tears leave her eyes. She wonders if her family misses her as much as she does them. "Hey Wendy, let's get geared up. We are about to make history." James tells Wendy. James is a black man that stands at 6'3", thick beard and a great personality. He has been Wendy's best friend for a while now. They have shared so many stories from back home and developed a closeness that the others don't have with one another. James places one hand on Wendy's right shoulder, giving her a little rub and pat. Wendy places one hand over his and pats him back. The crew members all put on their spacesuits. The airlock opens, with a massive door turning counterclockwise, and big metal bolts moving from all corners of the solid steel door. They all wait patiently, talking among themselves, Wendy standing with James, the captain with Sarah and Roy, Sarah a plant analyst, Roy a medic and Marine. Pedro messes around with a couple of straps on his suit nervously. The crew walked out onto the dock plate that had been descending out after the ship landed. Reading about the atmosphere and the gravity, the technology they used, informed them that the air is breathable and it is safe to unlatch their helmets. The crew didn't have to worry about the planet's gravity as well. Most of the crew pulled their helmets to the back of them, all except for Wendy. They took in the air and the scenery. Wendy, still unsure of herself, became paranoid. She looked around, searching for anything that may be a threat. The sky is a mixture of pink and blue. The clouds are blue and white, puffy, and seem to move quickly in the sky. The captain breathed in the air. The scent of flowers and plants came to him. The air has a cool, smooth lightness to it. The captain breathed out and squatted down, touching the grass with one gloved hand. The grass tapped his fingers as a cool wind blew through. James walks ahead, taking in the air. He smiles, looking back at Wendy, sighing to her that everything is fine. Pedro tells Wendy, "Come on, Wendy. Take down your helmet. Breathe in the air. It smells fantastic. The air is good. The weather feels great." Wendy, being cautious and paranoid, Wendy shook her head no. She didn't want to take off her helmet. For some reason, she felt safer with it on. Wendy smiled at him, then told him not to worry about her. They all look up to seeing 3 large colored suns, 2 orange ones, and 1 a light blue one, that seemed to be dim and glow with shifting colors of purple. From where they all stood, they could see several other planets that were far out, like the moon to Earth. They counted 8 of them. Pedro lifted his camera and started recording. The captain spoke into the camera as he walked forward, telling what they are all experiencing. He pointed at several locations around them as he walked. Sarah has feelings for the captain. She keeps staring at him with an adorable smirk. She even follows close by him. The grass on the ground is blue and short, with many little and tiny pink flowers. They seem to cover far out, and most of the area. The air has a smell of cinnamon and apples, along with the scent of flowers. A light scent that seems to belong to the area. Pedro believed it came from the mountain trees nearby. Wendy hears a buzzing sound, but it becomes more like a hum. Pedro turns his head, seeming to take notice of the sound as well. Then from out of nowhere, an odd-shaped UFO flies by them. When it passes them, it brushes air into the area, causing everything to feel it. The UFO hovers around in the air. The captain alerts his crew members to stay close. The small ship swerves, circling them. Then it lands several feet away from them. The sound of it, as it cut through the air, made the crew feel nervous. They have never seen anything move like this. James, the weapon expert, the only other soldier on board, took lead. Holding a large gun that has many blinking lights, it looks heavy, but James handles it like nothing. The captain instructs the crew to follow James, so they do. Wendy keeps looking around, wondering if they might get ambushed. Pedro's left hand starts to tremble. He feels that they need to take lead. The silver and black UFO sits floating from the ground. On the side of it, a thin door opens. A bright white light shines out from it. The ship then lands, touching the ground. 3 figures walked out from the ship, all thin, all wearing some type of spacesuits that covered their bodies. But their faces are exposed, thin neck, large bulbous shaped heads, dark mirrored eyes that seem wide and unnatural, thin mouths with no lips, the skin a light gray. Some of them seem to have a different color, nearly a light green or tan brown. The aliens walked over to the captain and his crew. They look harmless. The captain tells James not to aim at the creatures, so James lowered his weapon. "We come in peace. We would like to speak to your leader," the captain says, with a friendly gesture, one hand out for a handshake. The tan-brown alien stares at him, then tilts his head to one side slightly. It then smirks, its thin upper lip curved up, showing its tiny white, sharp teeth. "Do you understand me?" the captain says, forcing a smile on his face. He looks back at his crew to check to see if they are okay, then turns to look at the aliens. Wendy is frightened, looking to be ready to run. Pedro is recording. He is sweating badly and keeps wiping his brow. James has the eyes of a man ready for anything. He just stands there with one finger on the trigger of his gun. Roy keeps looking at the captain and looking back, trying to see how far they are from the ship. He feels horrified because it's a great distance. Roy places one hand close to his zapper gun on his holster, hoping he wouldn't have to use it. Sarah stands looking to be calm. She smiles at the aliens. One of them gives her a wink, which startles her. The light green alien, which has female features, small shaped breast, hips, even the way it stood seemed feminine. She was the scariest looking one. There was something about her eyes that seemed evil, dark, violent. The humans didn't like the way it stared at them. The gray one had no emotion in its face. It seemed as still as a Halloween mask. It just has a blank stare. It seemed and felt like it was just trying to study them. This alien was slightly taller than the other two. It even had weird golden symbols on its spacesuit. It made David think it must be the leader. "So, how are you all doing?" the captain says nervously. He keeps looking back at the brown-tan alien because it's smiling at him, and he doesn't know why. "Captain, we should be leaving now. This doesn't seem right," James says, stepping away from the aliens. The gray alien placed one hand up. A wave of energy comes from his bulbous head, nearly invisible from the human eye. Sensing danger, Wendy grabbed the captain's arm and yanked him, yelling at him that they needed to go. "Captain, we have to go now," she shouts. Wendy falls to the ground, holding his arm. Her hand slipped, sliding down his arm until her hand grabbed his wrist, then slipped into his hand. She saw that her captain was in some sort of trance, his eyes wide and glistening. The man smiled big with tears in his eyes, his footing never changing. He just stood there in pure glee. She turned to face her crew members. All of them had the same look, smiling, wide-eyed with a look of glee. She released the captain's hand and stood up. Sarah was laughing and crying all at once. Wendy shouts at Sarah, "Sarah, snap out of it. We need to leave now." Wendy went to James, who stands with his gun aimed down. He was whispering. His forehead has huge veins in it. His eyes seemed to vibrate. He was the only one that seemed to be breaking out of the trance. As she approached him, she heard what he was whispering to her. "Don't take off your helmet. They get in your head." His words sent chills down her spine. She began to cry. James looked in her direction. Blood began to leak from his eyes. His smile got wider, showing his teeth. It looked unsettling. She can now see fear in his eyes, but his facial expression was of happiness. Just as he looked at her, something inside his mind snapped. She heard it. It was loud, like a part of his brain exploded. A loud pop and snap sound. James drops immediately to the ground, bleeding from his ears, eyes, nose, and mouth. He then dies. Wendy stands in pure dread, just taking it all in, her friend no longer alive. Wendy sobs and steps away. Wendy looks at Pedro and the captain. Pedro drops his camera and falls to his knees. He is whimpering. Wendy saw that the aliens were not friendly, and she had to do something. She ran to the captain and slapped him in the face. He seemed to come out of it. He began blinking his eyes and mumbling. She grabbed the space helmet he has attached to his suit but hung to his back. She lifted it up and latched it, closing it over his head. The captain fell over to the ground. He began shaking uncontrollably. She knew she broke the alien's connection to her captain. The captain started kicking and screaming. Wendy looked over, seeing Sarah on her stomach, decapacitated, slightly moving. Roy was leaning on a rock with his gun in hand. He has veins protruding from his forehead. He was foaming out the mouth, his face red and seemed to be burning. He yelled at Wendy to run. He then forced his hand to aim the zapper gun at the aliens. The tan-brown one focused on Roy now. It scrunched its forehead, and with that, Roy's arm snapped back, dislocating itself. His head then spun left, facing his back with a loud breaking sound. Roy falls over dead. Wendy screams, tripping over patches of beautiful tiger-striped flowers. She manages to keep her balance and not fall. The aliens just stared at her with those same ominous expressions. She now becomes stuck. There is something about those menacing eyes. Her conscience whispered to her, telling her to break eye contact now. But there was another voice in her head that told her not to stop looking. That voice made her feel safe, calm, and blissful. She started to smile. She could feel her face forming a grin. She thought her helmet would protect her. But somehow, they are getting through. She thought maybe just looking at them is what's harming her. Just as she began to force her eyes to look away, Wendy felt warmth and a sweet feeling of life. It made her high and grateful. She felt she could float. Wendy began to start unlatching her helmet. Doing this just felt right, she now thought. She can see her daughter and husband standing by a big tree with lots of beautiful green leaves, sunlight behind the tree shining through the brush. Her daughter running to her, reaching for a hug and embracement. Her husband walking behind smiling, with tears in his eyes. He looked so grateful. The tan, brown alien grins. Saliva drips from the bottom of his mouth. The two others stand side by side. Wendy was just about to press the unlock mechanism to her suit's helmet. Something inside her shouted not to. It was like an inner voice. That was her spirit, if that was what it was. It sent an echo of waves of warning that snapped her out of her trance. She finally broke eye contact and looked away, her hands leaving from unlocking her helmet. She fell to her knees. She started to bleed from her eyes. She blinked wildly for a moment. She was in a daze. She was dizzy and had trouble standing. Pedro began crawling on the ground. He was crawling to the aliens with a smile on his face. As he crawled, he passed by Wendy. Pedro was laughing. He looks insane. Wendy grabbed part of his suit and yelled at him to stop. Pedro pushed her away. Wendy jumped on top of him and threw his helmet over his head. She snapped it in place, and Pedro dropped on his belly and began shaking. Wendy yelled to everyone not to look at the aliens and to get back to the ship. The run back was horrible. It looks impossible. Pedro and Captain David Starr are in a fever dream state, awake, but everything was bright and moved. Wendy helped them up and struggled, trying to push them to go towards the ship. They went. Some part of them still is there fighting. Both men listened to Wendy and made themselves escape. Wendy was too afraid to look back to see if the aliens were following them. Wendy had to keep guiding Pedro and the captain. She struggled herself, but she knew if they didn't keep going, they would die. As they approached their spacecraft, Wendy lost sight of her captain. She turned to see him walking back towards the aliens, his helmet off. He was happy. He waved at Wendy goodbye. He had a big goofy grin on his face. She could tell he wasn't himself. He was lost and didn't seem to understand what was really happening. Wendy just gave him a look of sadness. A few tears left her eyes. She is too tired and worn out to go after him. He was too far off, and going back for him would be putting her and Pedro in danger. She took Pedro by his arm and pushed on, leaving the captain. She can hear the captain's laughter as he vanishes down a couple of hill paths. Once inside the ship, Wendy turned on the shields and took Pedro to the sick bay. She activated a medic android to tend to Pedro. Pedro thanked her before she left the room. Wendy then scanned the area for life forms. Not finding anything near the ship, she felt good and safe. Wendy sat in the captain's chair crying. She didn't know if she should go back and see if he is alive or to leave the planet. She fought with the decision to leave. Hours went by, and she had to make a choice. She believed the captain is dead. There is no way those aliens wanted a peaceful outcome. The ship went up into the sky and left the planet. Wendy lay in her sleep pod, staring up through the glass at the ceiling with wonder in her big blue eyes. She remembered the feeling of bliss and freedom the aliens gave her. It was overwhelming. Did the aliens just want to murder us in that state of mind? So, we died peacefully? Would that have been the best way to go out? Wouldn't have been so bad not to fight it, just to go away. Happy, Wendy thought to herself. Wendy let out a breath as she thought of crewmates. She rubbed her wet eyes and tried to think of what to do next. Well, it's over now, she says quietly. Wendy closes her eyes and lets sleep take over, letting out a relaxed breath. Pedro enters the room. He stares at Wendy as she is resting. He is holding a large metal axe in his hands. He is smiling with drool dripping from his mouth. His eyes glistening with shine in the dark of the room. The crazed stare in his eyes shows he is up to no good. Madness has took over him. His teethy smile curves up even wider. He has a quivering, whispery laugh as he begins to approach Wendy. The quietness is broken with the sound of shattered glass and a woman's scream.